Come closer. What I'm about to tell you cannot be said out loud. There's something in you that has been listening for a long time, not just today, not just in this moment, but across years of quiet searching, across rooms you've sat in alone, across nights when sleep wouldn't come, and you lay there with the strange weight of something you couldn't name, pressing gently against the inside of your chest. You've been listening without knowing what you were listening for. And now, without choosing it, you're here. You've felt it before. The sense that the name people call you doesn't capture everything you are. That there's something deeper, an identity you feel but has never arrived to you whole. You've introduced yourself 100 times, and something in you has always known. That name, the one on your license, the one your mother gave you, the one your friends say without thinking. It lands close, but it doesn't land all the way. There is a dimension of who you are that no human being has ever been able to see clearly enough to speak. And you have spent years, maybe your whole life, waiting for someone to finally say it right. This morning, in a stillness that has no name, God whispered a name over you. Not your given name, the name you had before you existed. The name that was spoken in a place before this world had language, before your body was formed, before the first morning star sang. And the first thing that came after that name. You didn't find this video because of an algorithm. An algorithm doesn't know the name that was whispered over you. It knows your watch history, it knows what you clicked on last Tuesday. But it does not know the sequence of quiet longings that brought you to this exact second in this exact stillness. Heaven does. And heaven waited, not in a hurry, not in a panic, with the patience of something that exists entirely outside of time, until this was the moment. This is not a coincidence. The chosen don't arrive here by accident. There is a feeling that some people carry their whole lives without ever finding a word for it. It shows up in the strangest places. You are somewhere ordinary, in traffic, in the middle of a sentence, standing in a grocery store aisle, and without warning, a sensation moves through you. It is not sadness exactly. It is not quite nostalgia. It is the feeling of almost remembering something you were never supposed to forget. And it leaves as quickly as it came, and you go back to your day. But something in you is a little more restless afterward, a little more certain that this life is not the whole story. You have seen numbers, or signs, or small impossibilities at the exact moment when the weight of something felt too heavy to carry alone. You've written them off as coincidence, and then they came again, and you wrote them off again, and they came again, until the word coincidence started to feel dishonest. There is a language being spoken at the edge of your ordinary life. You have been hearing it in pieces. You have had a dream, maybe more than once, where someone called your name. Not your name exactly, but a sound that felt like it contained your name, the way a seed contains the tree. You woke up reaching for it. You could feel the shape of the sound, the weight of it in your chest. But by the time you were fully awake, it was already dissolving, like trying to hold fog in your hands. You lay there in the dark, knowing something had happened, not knowing what. You have looked for yourself in categories that almost fit. Every identity you've tried on has captured part of you, but none of them has been large enough to hold all of you. There's always something left over, something that doesn't quite belong to the label, something that you quietly tuck away because there's no box for it. The chosen often live this way, slightly too large for the containers that were built before they arrived. And through all of this, in the background of the searching, has been the quiet and persistent sense that you were made for something that has not yet fully arrived. Not arrogance. You know the difference between arrogance and calling. This is not the feeling of being better than anyone. It is the feeling of being assigned to something specific, something that requires exactly who you are, down to the particularities that sometimes make you feel out of place. A mission that has been waiting, with more patience than you have for the right moment, like the chosen and all who are called by a name they have not yet heard in full. The first pinned comment beneath this video is waiting. It is the door to letters from heaven. But before I tell you what waits there, I need to sit with you in what the book of Psalms says, quietly, about what heaven already knows. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my downsitting and mine uprising. Thou understandest my thought afar off. That is Psalm 139, and what it describes is not surveillance, it is intimacy. It is the kind of knowing that feels like being held from the inside. God does not know about you the way a record keeper knows about a file. God knows you the way a father knows a child before the child can speak. From the inside out, from the origin point, from before the beginning of anything you have ever called your story, heaven has been carrying knowledge of you that predates your own self-awareness. Before you had a first thought, you were known. Before you chose anything, before you made a single mistake or a single right decision, before you became anyone's friend or anyone's disappointment, you were known, completely, by name. Not the name the world gave you, the name that was always yours. That is the weight of what we are moving toward now. There are those who search their whole lives for themselves in the wrong direction. They search outward, into achievement, into relationship, into reinvention, into one more answer from one more voice. And some of those searches produce good things, real things, things worth having. But the searching never fully stops, because the searching is aimed at the wrong horizon. What they are looking for is not in front of them. It was spoken over them before they were born. This is why identity hunger feels so specifically spiritual, even in people who have everything else. You can be loved, capable, successful, surrounded by people who see you and still feel this specific ache, the ache of the not yet delivered name, because the world did not give you that name, and the world cannot give it to you. It was spoken in a place the world has no access to. It can only be received in stillness, in the kind of quiet that most people never stop long enough to enter. God does not proclaim the pre-incarnate name. He whispers it. And this is not because he is uncertain or timid. It is because that name is too intimate for public declaration. It belongs to the interior. It is not a word to be heard in a crowd. It is a word to be received alone, in the stillness between one breath and the next, in the moment when everything else goes quiet. Before you were. Before the word you meant anything. Before your first cell divided. Before your first heartbeat. Before your mother's body knew you were there was a chamber of soft, unhurried light, not the light of a sun, something gentler, something that had no source because it needed no source, light that simply was. And in that place, before time had learned to move in one direction, before anything that would become your life had been assembled, there was silence. The silence that exists before a word is spoken. The silence that is full, not empty. The silence of something about to be named. And in that stillness, God leaned close to your soul, not your body. That had not been made yet. Your soul. The thing that would one day be placed carefully inside the particular life that became yours. God leaned close the way a father leans close to a sleeping child to speak something too precious for the open air, and the voice that formed, not resonated, not echoed, not announced, formed, the way light forms at the first moment of a new day, quiet and complete. That voice spoke a name, your name, the one that carries everything you were made to be, the one that contains your calling the way a river contains the rain that was always meant to become it. He called you before you existed. As it is written, before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee. And again, he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Before the foundation of the world, before any of this, God chose you by name, a name he spoke, a name that carries within it the complete blueprint of who you are and what you were made to do. And what came immediately after that name, the word that followed it, the mission it carries, the specific assignment that was sealed in that moment before time began. That is where this must pause. One scene is not the whole name. One glimpse is not the complete identity. What you have been given today is a fragment, the weight of the scene, the intimacy of the chamber, the reality of the whisper. But the name itself, the full revelation of what was spoken and what it carries, that is not something that can be completed in a single sitting. It was not spoken to you in a single breath either. You don't need to search for who you are anymore. You need to hear the name that was whispered over you before you were born. This video was the warning, the first whisper. It was sent ahead of something larger, not to satisfy your hunger, but to confirm that your hunger is real, that it is aimed at something true, that you were right all along to feel that the name the world gave you was not the whole story. Heaven was speaking before this moment. Heaven will keep speaking after. But what comes next is not a video. What comes next is a letter. Letters from heaven is where this continues. There are 3 things waiting in the letter that carries your name. The first is the identity, the specific quality of soul that was woven into you before you were formed, the thing that makes you irreplaceable in whatever you were assigned to. The second is what was prepared for you before you were born, the provisions, the timing, the people, the open doors that were arranged before you arrived. And the third is how to recognize the moment when the name begins to become visible in your actual life, not as mystical experience, but as concrete, unmistakable movement in the direction you were always meant to walk. You may be sitting with a small voice right now that says, "This is for someone else, someone more prepared, someone more together, someone who didn't make the choices you made or carry the weight you carry. Hear me on this." That voice is not discernment. That voice is the only thing standing between you and the name that was spoken over you before you existed. The chosen don't arrive ready. They arrive called. And the letter is not waiting for your readiness. It was prepared before you were ready. It was prepared before you were born. The first pinned comment is where you go next. That is the door. Before you walk through it, I want to ask you for something small. Leave your name here, not your birth name. But if you know the name you feel most fully yourself in, leave that. Leave your city. And then leave 3 words. I am listening. That is the seal. That is the signal to heaven that the word landed, that the chosen one in this seat heard what was said. When you write those words, you are not making a wish. You are marking the moment, and heaven marks it with you. There is no urgency here. This letter will not expire in an hour. But I want to say this gently. The ones who wait until they feel fully ready are often the ones who wait the longest, because the feeling of readiness is not what opens the letter. Receiving is what opens the letter. And receiving is simply showing up and saying yes to what was already yours. You know the difference between the things you have pursued and the things that have been pursuing you. This has been pursuing you. The repeated signs, the recurring dream, the names that didn't fit, the mission you feel but have not yet been able to name. These were not coincidences, and they were not your imagination. They were the advance notice of a name that was always being spoken in your direction. May this word find you exactly where you needed to hear it. May heaven keep speaking low, and may you keep listening. Until the next letter.